Of the meeting, we do a few traditional things, and I'll make a few short announcements on how things are going to go tonight. What I would ask right now is if you all stand and remain standing, two things. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then our traditional one verse, God Bless America. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No Boston always starts us off.
Bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide and flow. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
At this time, I would like to recognize our community church pastor, Gail, to say a short blessing of the meeting.
Oh, no. Can you all hear me? Yes, all right. So I would invite you to plant your feet firmly on the floor. Open your hands in a posture of giving and receiving. And we ask for this evening that the blessing of this meeting be a blessing where wisdom is present among us, where patience is one of the virtues that we practice, that we listen with open hearts and deep patience to each other, that we recognize each other's humanity and give respect to each other's voices and observations and experiences, and that the outcome of our voting and our actions be one that shows compassion and justice and sustainability for each other, for our community, and the creation that is in our keeping. May this meeting be blessed.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. Just a few short things that I want to say. I would first like to recognize Dick for a moment. I think he's got
yes. I think I'd like to recognize the fire department across the board for all the work they do, the time they put in, but we recently had a heart attack, and there were members of the fire department at the fire station who responded, and it was a CPR situation, and it was successful.
All right. I'd also like to throw a quick thank you. I thank all the voters that braved Tuesday storms. Coming down to vote. It was a tough decision to keep the polls open. The governor strongly urged that we do it. There was some difference in opinions between our Secretary of State and our Attorney General as to whether the legality was good or bad, but I decided, based on, along with 54% of the other towns in New Hampshire, we're keeping the polls open. And I want to thank all the voters for braving and coming down here. But I really want to thank the volunteers that came out and helped, not only during the election, but after the elections. We had a lot of help. The highway department, the fire department, the police department, selectmen, and their administrative staffs were just, I couldn't say enough good things of what they did to help Tuesday take off. So I want to thank everybody for that. I want to ask for tonight that we have an orderly meeting. All questions and comments about debates of the articles are to be directed to the moderator. And I ask that if you want to be recognized, please stand up, and you have to state your name. The legal record of the meeting, your name has to go in that record, and just because some people may know other people doesn't necessarily mean that we do, or that Karen knows and can hear. So I ask you to state your name for the record, and then I will let you debate what you want to debate about an article. But they are all addressed to the moderator, not back and forth between all you people. We'd like a real nice, orderly meeting. Be courteous to your neighbors. And, you know, if you got a real strong opinion about something and it's totally against what somebody else is, that's your opinion, but please keep the personalities out of it. And you all do and always have, and that's a nice thing. We have a real good meeting forever, and let's keep that tonight. A couple other notes. Got to read my notes because I'm getting old. Anyway, I'm going to take each article in the warrant in order as they appear on the warrant. I'm going to try to allow everybody that feels they want to speak a chance to speak. And at some point I may cut that debate off if we start getting repetitive comments and repetitive questions. We have to keep those comments and discussions to the subject matter at hand in the article. Okay, and I'm also going to be mindful that if I have one person who wants to speak several times, I'm going to kind of limit. We've got a little bit smaller crowd than normal, so it'll be a little better, but we're going to try to move along orderly and try to get everybody an opportunity. Okay, when you do stand up, as I say, speak loudly and clearly. The other thing I want to address, which we've tried to many town meetings and a couple of budget meetings, a little bit of clarification, it may not be needed, but the primary meat and potatoes of this article is the town operating budget. And we still separate a lot of things out. And if the Department of Revenue Administration and Concord had their way, we'd basically be 5 minutes and rubber stamp the bottom line total. If you want to make, I'm going to go down the line items of the operating budget. It's a couple of pages long. I'm going to discuss each line, or allow you to discuss each line item. If you insist you want to make an amendment to a line item, you have the right to make the amendment. It's got to be seconded and it's got to be voted in the affirmative to have the amendment by the majority. However, it really means nothing. You have to go back at the very end of that total line item discussion. We look at the bottom line of the warrant, which is $1,009,000. We're voting on the bottom line. At that time, if you wanted to amend the police department budget by $25,000 up or down, I'm not picking on the police department, chief. At that time, you can make an amendment to the bottom line with a dollar amount, and you can recommend to the selectmen that they listen to your amendment and listen to your wishes. But the real deal is, whatever we approve as a total bottom line operating budget tonight, as long as the selectmen stay within that dollar amount, they cannot exceed it without a lot of work and a lot of blessings from Concord and the voters. They have the authority by statute to move monies in and around any of those line items to make the operation of the town work. So if you successfully cut $25,000 out of the police department, for example, let's say the fire department. How's that? Okay, don't send me home. That doesn't have to. The selectmen are going to look at the operating budget. They're going to try to listen to people's wishes. But if it's going to compromise operating of the town, they're going to shift monies from any line item they need to make sure we have a safe and efficient fire department. So you need to understand that, and that's out beyond our control, folks. You can argue about it all day long, but the bottom line is the bottom line that you adopt, amended up or down, is only a recommendation if you want that money to be increased or decreased from a specific area. And I hope everybody's clear with that. It seems we have wrestled and wrestled with it. And you can identify where you'd like that money added or subtracted, but it's only a recommendation. Any questions on that? And maybe I've made it more complicated than it is, but it seems we've gotten hung up on that for several years. All right, that's basically all of the things that I have. Is everybody clear on that? I would ask for a motion to dispense with the reading of the warrant, as I will read each article before any action is taken.
So
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Okay, Articles 1 through 5 dealt with the voting portion of the town meeting on Tuesday, and here are the results of those articles, and here are your winners, and I will declare the people officially elected to those positions as I read down. Okay, Article 1 was the election of town offices. Selectman for 3 years, John Allen was the winner. I declare him elected. For selectman for 2 years, Richard Bennett was the winner. I declare him elected. Treasurer was Kathleen Doherty. I declare her elected. Town clerk tax collector, the winner was Karen Burton. I declare her elected. Trustee of trust funds was Linda Terry. I declare her elected. Trustee of cemeteries was Barbara Terrio. I declare her elected. Library trustee was Ann Lee Doig. I declare her elected. Article 2 is the zoning ordinance articles. The yes have it. That article passed. Article 3, again a zoning amendment. The yeses have it. That article passed. Article 4, the yeses have it. That article passed. Article 5, yeses have it again. That article passed. And there was, for the contested votes and the zoning votes, the affirmative was overwhelmingly majority. It was a very easy decision to declare all those pushed. Okay? Now, I'm going to go to school board. Okay. On the school board side of the warrant, for a 3-year term, Jen Anzaldi was the winner. I declare her elected. For another 3-year position, Keith Bradley was the winner. I declare him elected. The school moderator, Tim Scott, was the winner. I declare him elected. School treasurer was Christine Thompson. I declare her elected. And the school clerk was a write-in, and the majority vote getter was Gino Funicello, and he has accepted that appointment, and I declare him elected. Okay, that's the results of Tuesday. Moving right along, Article 6, and we're on page 15, but we're going to very quickly go to 16, okay? Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the selectmen's recommended operating budget of the town in the amount of $1,979,000, $979,649, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and others. Appropriations voted separately on those. See the 2017 budget. It is recommended by the selectmen 3-0. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. We'll slip now for the discussion portion. I have a motion made and seconded. We'll skip to page 16, the next item, and we'll go down the line items and try to get through that, and then we'll vote on whatever bottom line we stick with or change. The Office of Selectmen. And what I will do is I can tell you that on pages 17 through 19, and I believe it's 24 and 25 collectively, is pretty much all of the breakdown information past and current. So hopefully that will have already answered people's minds if they've read it, or if you've got questions on breakdowns, that may cover you. If not, we can have the selectmen try to explain anything you want. So, Office of the Selectmen, is there any discussion? And again, I ask you to stand and state your name for the record. Great. Line item 2, town clerk. And I can read the amounts if you want. They're right there. Is that okay if we just take the line item? The amounts are in your book, very black and white. Okay, the town clerk, any discussion on town clerk's budget?
Jeanette Heidman. The second line item detail on page 17, that is the town clerk tax collector, an addition of $9,000, which would allow the office to open on Wednesdays. I understand that this was not put forward by the town clerk tax collector's office, but was recommended within the selectman office because when they're closed on Wednesdays, they're the ones who hear oh, they're closed. Darn. And so they thought, why don't we open the office on Wednesdays? So that's an additional $9,000. What I would recommend, and when it's appropriate to make a motion, that rather than just say, well, I think it's a good idea, if we get some sort of a tally, how many people are disenfranchised? How many people are turned away on Wednesdays? How many people are we impacting? There's no additional revenue resulting from having the office open additional hours, it's just an additional expense. So the question then is, how many people are being inconvenienced? And we don't really have those numbers. So I would suggest that we keep a record of it for the next year, and if we find that it's a significant number of people, then we vote on this next year.
Do you want to respond to that? Yeah, is there anybody else that has a discussion on it? I'm not going to poll the people here because we have roughly 900 registered voters and we have a very small percentage of that tonight, so I think, she has a very valid point, but it would be a skewed answer in a sense with the people present, but if anybody else wants to speak to or for this or have an opinion, please, now is the time to talk.
Sam Harding, I'd simply like to hear the rationale from the selectmen.
Start up. I think it would be nice to have the clerk, tax collector office open every day. The selectman's office is open so that people come in to do business in one office, they can do all their business. They're coming in to see the town clerk. I don't always remember that it's closed on Wednesdays. I don't always remember that it's Wednesday. But I think for the convenience of the town and for doing business, I think that it would be important to have the office open every day, that the selectman's office is open.
Well, I would just say that, we've seen the town clerk budget go up through the years, through the last 3-4 years, we've seen that budget go up, but it's never gone up in designed to be commensurate with revenues going up. So that's never been the case.
Sarah, I know you, but you have to
Sarah
get
Clemens. My question to go along with what the lady just said was, is there any way, for instance, Thursdays is a longer day. It's 8 to something, isn't it? It's a long day for the town clerk. So isn't it a possibility, rather than have her there in the mornings on Thursday, that she could, dispose herself to come Wednesday mornings or whatever? I mean, there's, rather than one long day being in the office, could it commence to be, a different work schedule for the town clerk we already have?
Anybody else would like to comment on it?
Linda Little. So I was the former assistant town clerk, and I think one of the issues is that some people can only come in the evenings. So I think we designed the schedule to be more available for people who work and can only come at night, which is why Karen maybe got a different day off. And I know also a lot of times we were on call. If someone could only do their registration on Wednesday, she'd be willing to go with them, or she don't know where I live. So, just.
Is there anybody else that hasn't spoke to this?
Bill Logish. Don't we have, rather than just one full-time employee, we have a 1.5 in that department now?
In the clerk's office? I know there's a full-time clerk, or a permanent clerk and an assistant clerk, but I'm not sure of the hours.
Right, can't they?
I am full-time and my deputy currently is budgeted, well, we're hoping to budget at least 10. And by adding the Wednesday, it would make 15 hours. So it is not, it wouldn't be considered a 1.5 position because there's still not enough hours for that.
I would think that you could use a little wiggle room So you
If
utilize
I
her
put,
on
I have no
Wednesdays.
problem putting her in more hours, but if I put her in more hours, I need more money to support her.
I don't know, I just feel that one and whatever, you could cover
Well,
Wednesdays.
the bottom line, to really answer that, if you're gonna hire someone, you're gonna have them working, you gotta compensate them. Now, this money would compensate additional hours to, as I understand it. This would compensate the ability for the town to pay additional hours for a person to be there on Wednesday. I don't know that it would affect the existing hours to an extent, because you already have that covered in your budget. Is that, you understand that one? I mean, what we have now is covered in the budget. What we don't have is Wednesdays, and this money would compensate that person for Wednesday. And only trying to offer explanation, not defend or argue this. Any other questions? Okay, again, and Jeanette, if you can make an amendment now. However, we have to go back and address it at the bottom line, and we have to amend that bottom line. And you can make the recommendation that be cut from the budget, but it's only a recommendation, and if the money is there, the selectmen have the authority by state statute to adjust those lines to accommodate that.
So what is it appropriate for me to do now at this point? Is it appropriate to?
Well, if you make an amendment now, I'm going to recognize you before we vote on the bottom line, just to make an amendment of the bottom line for the dollar amount. And then we vote on that. If you make an amendment now, this is the procedure for amendments. If someone makes an amendment to an article, whether it be the town operating budget or anything else in the article, to add or subtract money, the amendment has to be seconded. A majority of the voters present have to vote on the amendment. Yes, we want the amendment, or no, we do not. If they don't want the amendment, we move on. If they want the amendment, we go back and address that article. But we're going to do that at the bottom line, and I will, by my statute, I have to come back and address that and ask for that amendment to be given at that time. So what I don't want to do, if you feel strongly you want to make an amendment now, that's your right by statute. But eventually, it's an advisory amendment only, and all I'm trying to do is simplify things, keep that amendment and amend the bottom line. And what we would do, now there may be several more areas that somebody might want to add or subtract. That's when we do it. And that's not our decision, that's governed by the statutes. And Attorney Mario will back that up, I'm pretty sure. We've researched it pretty heavily in past years. And I have all those RSAs here if somebody wants to ask that. So I'm going to go back, I just want to make it clear that I'm not telling you you can't make an amendment, because you can.
I'd like to make an amendment. The amendment would be that we delete that line item and the $9,000 from the bottom line, and that over the next 12 months, that we keep some sort of a tally to find out how many people are impacted, and revisit this 1 year from now.
Hold a second for a second. I might add this, again, just to help clarify. In my opinion, the only real way you're going to keep the tally is the people that are going to be there to be able to hear those positive or negative comments. And I'm looking at when the clerk is there and pretty much full-time the administrative officers are there. Is there any value to having them say, are we getting enough now? I'm just offering that out as a question, not
By way of response, I think we can figure that out.
So is there a second to the amendment? The amendment is to amend the bottom line by $9,000 decrease and to suggest that the selectmen decrease that $9,000 in the area of the town clerk's salary. Does that sum up as what, okay, is there a second?
Yes, Betsy Harding, I'd be happy to second that, because given the fact that, as I understand it, the current town clerk did not request this, and the prior town clerk also doesn't see it necessary, I would love to see a way to be able to tally it that the selectmen could then evaluate later on. I'm sure we could figure out a way to do that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is everybody clear we're voting only on this amendment? Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, Sam Harding again.
I think we're talking about a good piece of change here, $9,000. I sometimes get down there and I want to go to the tax collector and I've got the wrong day, or I don't remember what day it is that I understand. I think it's my responsibility to figure out when I can go down there. It's my responsibility to read when it's open. And, you know, there's $9,000. So I support this amendment.
Just to make sure we all understand what we're doing, the town clerk line in the operating budget on page 16 is 2017 proposed is $99,376. So if I understand the motion to amend correctly, it seeks to reduce that to $90,376. Is that correct?
It's an advisory motion, yes. That's the bottom line. Is there any other discussion?
Kathleen Doherty, I'm the town treasurer, and I'm in the offices 5 days a week, approximately from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock on a daily basis. And on Wednesdays, I'm in there, and a lot of people come in on Wednesdays. They've made a mistake, they don't know what's going on, and there's nobody there, and they get very disgruntled and are annoyed. And of course, they're annoyed because Karen isn't there. And there's nobody to handle what they're doing. And I know she's there on Thursdays, late, where she helps people out. She also helps people out Saturdays and Sundays too, if they ask her to come in, which is not her responsibility to do it because of who she is. She just comes in and does it. So I don't think $9,000 is that much money to have somebody there. She's not there just on Wednesdays. She's there other days too, the deputy. She's not just working on Wednesdays. And so that's my opinion, and I think that she should be allowed to be a deputy town clerk, and I think she should be allowed to be on Wednesdays.
Okay, there was another hand over here, yes.
Gay Howe. I'm kind of looking at how often we need to go to town hall to see Karen. We need to license our pets in January, and we need to register 2 cars in November. So I think it's pretty easy to rearrange our schedule to be able to get down there on existing hours. So I would say no to an additional 9,000.
I'd just like to clarify, just so registering our cars is by birth date and it's 12 months a year.
That's right, and we're both born in the same month.
Oh, you too. That's great. You get one birthday a month. And I'm trying to point of clarification, just so that people are aware. It's, yeah, I don't want people flooding November and missing their inspection. Is there any other comments? Because one of the selectmen would like to comment.
Hi, I'm Holly Johnson, and I actually support the town spending the $9,000 for this position because I think the town office is busy. When I've been there, it's been busy, the phone's ringing, people are in line. So I support this extra money to pay to help with that.
All right. Go ahead, Bob. You wanted to speak? I've got one more.
Well, I wanted to say that this is not an idea that was generated by the selectmen. It was generated with thoughtful discussion among the people that were there on Wednesdays, and this discussion then ended up spilling over to the town clerk tax collector's office. And because we have a highly trained deputy now where we didn't before, the idea came about, it was to be like, well, now that we've got someone else there that can man the office and is willing to put in those hours, does that make sense to us? The way we handle our budgets every year is that we ask department heads to come in with a flat budget. And we have a discussion around what is a reasonable rate of pay increase for our town staff. And we see everything else, we expect everything else to come in flat. And if there are needs above and beyond any of the line items that were budgeted for last year for those amounts, that narrative be brought to us so that we get a sense of why any of these departments feel like they need more money than they had last year, and that's how the discussion, came to us.
Yes, sir.
Andy Kearns. I'm actually okay with spending that money for this reason. However, I'm for the amendment because part of what Jeanette was saying is that let's take a year and find a way to ask around and see if that Wednesday is needed. So personally, I'm okay with spending the money, but I'm for the amendment for that reason. I would just out of humor like to note that our annual report already has it open on Wednesdays.
All right, one more comment, and then I'm going to move the question. Well, you both have spoken. You were up first. So.
Sarah Clemens. I'd just like to also point out, I was at a selectmen's meeting, I think it was last week, last Thursday, whatever the last selectmen's meeting, and they had a person write into them about a rebate for their tax bill because they felt they had been charged interest, but they didn't receive their bill the proper way, and so on and so forth. And the selectmen seemed to back up the thought that the town should not be responsible for that it was the person's responsibility to, they knew their taxes were coming, they knew they had to be paid a certain time, and that for whatever reason, this person thought they should get their rebate, they opposed it. And I guess I'm thinking in the same manner as the other people here. It's our responsibility to find when the office is open and make it our due diligence to get there when they're available. So I, again, feel that we should take and have it looked at and find out whether or
Okay,
not.
I'm going to take one last quick comment, and I'm going to move on.
That department is like anybody's business. It's a business that we're running there, whether it be her department or any other department there. And when you approach a business, you expect it to be open 5 days a week. And the other thing I'd like to see is more consistent hours, and then we don't have to try to remember whether they are or they aren't. These people will come there and, with their money ready to go, and nobody's home. No good. We have Saturday and Sunday. That's what that's for, is to stay home and go to church.
Thank you. You got it. I'm going to move the question. I think we're voting. I asked you if you wanted to speak. She said no. Go ahead. A quick clarification from our clerk.
I just want everybody to know, it's not that I only work 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I keep a chart. If anyone ever wants to know, I average 37 hours a week. And it's at any given time. So throughout the year, if you add it up, I'll be happy to provide any information. So if people question whether or not do I even work enough hours, I'm working more than I need to, and above and beyond at times in odd hours of the day, odd hours of the week. Some people come in at 9 o'clock at night and need help.
Okay, I'm going to move. We're going to vote on the amendment, and again, it's strictly an advisory amendment. We'll be readdressing this in the bottom line. So we're voting only on the amendment. An affirmative, the amendment is going forward. A negative, the amendment is going away. But it gives you an opportunity, when we actually vote on the bottom line, to make an amendment to that adjustment, and that one is binding. Is that everybody clear on that? So you really get 2 shots. That's one of the reasons why I kind of discourage amendments on the line items. Again, it's not against any one person, but it's recommended by everyone that governs our RSAs and governs how I run a meeting. And unfortunately, it's really doing nothing because we're going to address it again at the bottom part, have everybody an opportunity to even add it back in if we take it out or take it out twice. I know that's confusing, but that's the deal. So a yes vote on the amendment. All those in favor signify by... I'm calling the question, Jerry. Sorry, it's no more discussion.
It wasn't discussion.
Okay.
Should it be a hand vote?
I'm going to try a voice vote, and that'll tell. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, I now have the authority. I'm going to call for a hand vote. Now, before you all just put your hands up, an aye, yes, left-hand side, my left. Put your hands up, please. And one hand from each person, please. Yes vote. Okay, down. A yes vote on my right. Keep 'em up. All right, we got it. No vote to my left. No on the amendment. Yep, okay. To my right, a no vote on the amendment. $35 no's and 28 yes. I declare the amendment defeated. Thank you. I know that was a long-winded thing, but we're trying. Okay. Line item number 3, financial administration. Again, the amount is there, $192,041. Do I hear a motion? Line item number 3, financial administration, $192,041. I need a motion and a second before we go anywhere. Motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, great. We're going to move to number 4, line item 4, excuse me. Assessing, $40,000.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion there? Okay.
So do you really need a, I don't know if you need a motion in a second.
You're probably right. I'll give you that. That's why we pay him. Okay, line 5, legal. Any discussion? Thank you. He's absolutely correct. I was just being honest. Okay, no questions? Okay. Line 6, planning board, $3,500. Zoning board, $1,000. Great. General government, parks and buildings, 26.7, no? And again,
I just have a question. Jeanette, it has old library utilities and expenses, and then under miscellaneous town, in the notes, it says old library expenses. So I'm just, is it in one place or the other, or is it in both places?
Sorry, the old library is basically the utilities. Excuse me, can you speak up?
So it's not the expenses, it's just utilities.
Yeah, it's just, well, the miscellaneous account maintenance and expenses is more for things like, not like, replenishing paper towels or toilet paper, but things that, like maybe lawn care or bigger items. Is that?
Does that answer the question? Okay. And again, I'm hoping that an opportunity to speak on these line items, if we get to the bottom line, and if you need to make an amendment, you've already made your decision based on our discussions, yes or no, what have you. And that I'm giving you as much opportunity to speak to these things as possible. Okay? Okay, we are on cemeteries, $9,500. Any discussion? No? Okay, property liability insurance, $58,179. Moving right along. Building inspection, $30,485. Police, and I wasn't picking on the police department. I don't want you to cut $25,000. He's done a good job with the budget by reducing it. $288,463. Again, it's probably out of line, but we didn't get an opportunity, but I would like to say to everybody, we welcome our new chief aboard at the first town meeting. apologies for not bringing that up forward, but welcome to town. And we know you just had the first big snowstorm.
And I would like to thank the chief for showing up tonight on time. That was very.
How do you know you were here? Okay. Ambulance, $21,340. Any discussion? Okay. Fire, $207,024. Moving on. Emergency management, $4,806. Good. Highway administration, $291,021. Highway, $329,700. Street lighting, $10,000. Solid waste disposal, $127,706. Okay, animal control, $1,346. Good. Public welfare, $6,000. Library, $63,539. Great. Recreation and parks, $19,200. Debt service, $62,900. Okay. Tax anticipation interest, $1,000. Okay. I just want to make a comment. We're at the bottom line. I hope I didn't discourage anyone in their conversation and talking and the ability to make a motion. I just want to make sure that if there was anyone that felt that they couldn't speak or do exactly what Jeanette tried to do, it's not my intent. I was just trying to make sure that you all understand there are things we can allow and things we can't. I'd love to go back to the old school and go that way, but unfortunately we can't anymore. So if everybody's good, just Sarah?
Yes, Sarah Clemens. I'd like to know when would be the appropriate time to give out some information about insurances and cost increases in wages and stuff. When would be the appropriate time to do that?
You mean to pass product out? Probably should have been done.
To speak to it.
To speak to it.
Correct. You said it was going to come out of the bottom line, and I really didn't see. It says, for instance, if you look, it gives you like the administrative or the fire department, office wages, and then it gives you the FICA and the insurance and the pension and so on.
It's your right to discuss it, what the intent is, and why I was trying to clarify and be as clear as I can. That's the purpose of the discussion window when we go down the line items. You take the line item, if, for example, fire department, if you have a question on fire department expenses or fire department insurance costs with that. But if you're, at this point in time, if you want to make an amendment up or down and discuss the bottom line, but as far as going back to discuss those items, I'm going to say that should have been done. I don't mean to.
Well, I'm going to say that you confused me and misled me because I didn't know when was the appropriate time, for instance, to bring up, for instance, like I said, just general information about what we're paying for different items. You kind of blew by it, so I really didn't know when to do it.
Well, it was not my intent, and I just tried to clarify it.
So
I didn't
you're
want to
saying
keep
that I
anybody
can't
from front.
speak to it
What I'm saying, if you want to offer discussion about specific to one of those line items, I will give you a short minute, or 2 or 3. But if you're going to go through all the line items with those items, I'm not going to allow it this time. But if you've got material that you want to pass out, That should have been passed out prior to
No,
us
I
starting the
want to
meeting.
just state,
Okay.
make some
Is
statements.
there, so what, you ask me a question and we'll go forward.
Okay, for, what I'm talking about is the wage increase of our town employees of 3%.
Okay.
And what I wanted to point out was the insurance rates. For instance, for a year, for a single plan, it's $8,993. For a family plan, it's $24,876. For a two-person, it's $17,997. For our New Hampshire retirement, there's going to be an increase this year. It's going up to 11.38 for teachers. For the police, it's going up to 29.43. For fire, it's 31.89. For employees, it's 11.38. These are all percentages that are going up because of the cost of living and what's happening. If I'm correct, just for instance, and this doesn't always show up, even though you have some figures here, that if I'm correct, and our administrator can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, for instance, our total for our fire chief, it's $39,000 for wage, and $24,810 for insurance, and $12,262 for retirement, making that a total of $76,000. And I want our employees to be paid fairly and appropriately. But I do think that there has to be a way for people to understand that, you know, when you see something that says they're kind of grouped together and you can't see what is earned, but we do treat our employees fairly. And I think that it's possible that possibly the selectmen could take into note that the cost of living increase for all of us is 0.3%. And we're increasing our wage by 3%. And then you top it off with the New Hampshire Retirement, Social Security, FICA, and insurance. I do feel that we are appropriately paying our employees, and that this year maybe the town fathers could see in good faith to drop down 3% to 0.3, like the cost of living is for most people.
And I hope everybody understood, you're basically presenting that information for everybody's opinion. And again, to try to clarify, just for references, where if everything was ideal, the financial administrative line item carries totals for all of that. That is kind of where it's not inappropriate. I have no problem with you being able to speak to that, and I'm sure the selectmen heard it. But again, I guess I say they try to group things together. Would they probably love to spread them out? I'm sure, again, we do what we try to do, and they do what they try to do, and I hope that answers everybody's questions. Now, if they're, with Sarah's information, if you all heard that, if there's anybody that feels that, you just offered point of information, you know, I'm at the bottom line, are you offering?
I did not know what changing it from 3% to 0.3, the cost of living amount would be. I did not realize I needed to come with that figure.
Well, again, you have 100% rights to change that, to try to change that up or down tonight. But my personal point, just to try to clarify, when is there an appropriate time, and I'm sure you've probably known you well, you've probably done this. That's why they have budget hearings, that's why they, ahead of time, so that when you come tonight, you try to be as prepared as you can, which you are. I don't know when there's a good or bad time, is what I'm trying to say to you.
Okay.
But right now, is basically what I need to ask you is, if you feel strongly enough you want to make an amendment, by all means, I want to make sure you are clear. I apologize if there was a misunderstanding and you couldn't, that was what I was trying to drive. The time to discuss is the purpose for going down those line items, to give all of you an opportunity to discuss those items, so that when we get to that bottom line, when it is the legal time to amend up or down, you've gotten the discussion, you've heard other people, you've heard selectmen, town administrators, some heads of departments etc. That's kind of what we do. I hope that helps explain this.
Yes, and if I could just point out to the people that are here, I did attend the budget hearings, and there were probably maybe 6 people here at the budget hearings. And we were told by the selectmen that this is the place we should bring our comments and address you as the major townspeople. That, yes, we do go to the budget hearings, and yes, there may be a half a dozen or a dozen of us there, but we were informed by our select group that last year and this year that we should come to this meeting and we should address all of you. Because for whatever reason, this is the place where we're supposed to bring these things to you, to allow you to see, even though, yes, there were 12 of us, but their response to us at selectmen's meetings as well as at town meetings is that we're a minority. We're not the majority of town voters. So that's why I'm addressing you as town voters, to give you this information. Yes, it is available if you go to the selectmen's meetings and so on, but not enough of us go.
Thank you very much. I understand. Again.
So I'm saying to you, if I make a motion that we drop the 3% increase, I can't do that now?
I've said several times, the time to make an amendment by state statute and by what governs how I run this meeting, unfortunately, is the bottom line of the operating budget. You can do as we had earlier tonight. You have the right to make an amendment on the line item. It means nothing. I have to go back by
So I'm
statute.
saying to you
So
now-
I'm going to ask. No, I'm asking you. I'm going to ask you right now. If you want to make an amendment, please do so now, or I'm moving on.
All right, if I could make an amendment that...
You can make an amendment to the bottom line. You've already made your point about to the selectmen how you feel it's going to happen, but they're not governed by that. They can say, okay, we're going to take whatever you add or subtract out of any of those line items to make the town work. But that's what by statute they have to do.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes, so if I make an amendment to read that...
You can make an amendment to the bottom line, and your wishes are only advisory, and I believe they've heard you loud and clear what your wishes are. The amendment is only a dollar amount, and all it does, up or down, the selectmen do not have the authority to overspend the entire operating budget. They are, by authority, by statute, they are clear to move money from any one of those line items to make the town run efficiently. And if in their opinion, an add or a cut to that bottom line, and been advised to cut the wages of our town employees, or cut the heating cost of the fire department, or whatever is recommended, is only an advisory recommendation.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get clear. So I need you, I'm going to cut this off. You want to make an amendment, you give me a dollar amount, and I'll ask them. Let her talk! I'm trying to explain, folks, I'm sorry, but I've done this for several years, and tried to explain. Every year, we pick this thing apart, and we can't do anything. All we can do is amend the total. It's not my loss.
I understand, Bill, what you're saying.
Order, and Sarah has the floor, no one else. Sarah, would
Yes.
you like to make an amendment?
Yes, I would.
Please do so.
I would like to amend the increase to the town employees from 3% to 0.3% cost of living increase.
It has to be a dollar amount by revenue administration. I'm sorry, I can't, I don't write the rules. So pick a number. What do you want to, and Sarah, whether it's $1 or $100,000.
Can you do that? Could you give me a number?
I mean, quickly, no, because I don't know all the salaries.
No, I'm going to move the question. I need a yes or a no, Sarah. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I'm going to move on.
I apologize for not being totally prepared. I guess I would...
Please, you just made an amendment. I've held the second. I need an amendment.
$20,000.
Excuse me?
$20,000.
$20,000, okay. So let me make sure. You're making an amendment to amend the bottom line of the total operating budget of $1,979,649 be reduced by $20,000.
Correct.
Correct? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any discussion? Peter? Please state your name.
Thank you, Peter Benson. This is not the Price is Right. This is people's lives, their livelihoods. We don't throw numbers around. And we have a flat budget this year. And this town, I say this every year, like a broken record, our biggest asset are our employees. I don't think we overpay our employees. I don't think we underpay them. We look every year and I think we pay them fairly. I think that's the right thing to do. And if you look historically at this town, adjusted for inflation, we pay less in taxes now in Jackson than we did 20 years ago. So I don't understand what the big problem is. If you have a flat budget, you're paying less in taxes now than you were 20 years ago, and you've got a dedicated staff of employees who are serving this town, and I think doing a really good job in every department. What's the problem? We run very well. We have great facilities. We're not broke. Don't try and fix it.
Is there any other discussion on this? This is an amendment. Selectman Thompson would like to speak.
Well, I just want to clarify how we made the recommendation that we made to increase rate of pay for town staff by 3%. It was a result of a diligent salary analysis. We did our first salary analysis about 5 years ago and saw that our staff were underpaid in comparison to their colleagues that worked in other towns of similar size. So the first thing we did was come up with similar sized towns with similar forms of government to do a comparison study. We did another one that's right, especially the police. In fact, there were 2 years where we planned on increasing the police officers' rate of pay by 6% each year because they were so much more grossly underpaid than their counterparts in other towns. As a result of a suggestion made at a budget hearing by the people that were present at the budget hearing, they wanted us to raise the rate for the police officers to 8%, and then we did that, and that actually came from you, Bill. So we went from 6% to 8% at the urging of the people that were at the budget hearing. So we did another diligent salary analysis over the summer. The results are public. Anybody that wants to see them can come into the office and get them. Most of our town staff are still in the bottom half of the salary analysis based on what their counterparts make in other towns. And so we felt that once again, another 3% increase was warranted to help us get closer to being caught up to being in the middle ground. And that is our logic.
Is there any other discussion by, I know Bill wants to speak, I'm just looking around and spread it out here. Any other comments? Okay.
Sarah, I would like to recommend to you.
Bill, just direct it to me.
I'll listen.
She'll listen. I don't want dialogue going back and forth, and only one person at a time is going to have the floor.
I would like to recommend to Sarah that she remove her recommendation and let's do further research. Rather than shooting from the hips, just pulling a figure out of the air, let's do more research on it so that we know what we're talking about and approach it later.
I'm going to clarify that. Unfortunately, we're beyond that. We have a motion and a second. Again, by statute, what I'm going to say, you people, the majority of the people here are the authority. You people make the decision. The majority rules. If the majority of the people feel you don't want that motion to take effect, you vote it down. If you feel you want it to take effect, you vote in the affirmative, and that motion will address the bottom line. We haven't voted on the bottom line. We're only voting on, do we amend to reduce by $20,000? Is that, but we have to deal with that motion in that second. The only way I would even consider it, and even this they don't recommend, if people felt strongly, the person that seconded rescind their second, she rescind her motion. But that's their decision. The preference is to vote it up or down. So does that clarify what you're asking?
Sort of.
Okay, sort of. All right, I have a question in the back.
Christine Thompson, can you move the question?
Okay, I've been asked to move the question. I'm not going to recognize in a sense, I'm going to make that comment. And my apologies, but one person at a time, as I said to begin with, is all I'm going to allow to speak. And the reason being, for every person that wants to throw their comment in, the next person wants to maybe throw it a different way. So please, my apologies, but I was dealing with Sarah, I was giving her the floor. If someone wanted to question that, wait to be recognized, would be good going forward. And again, my apologies if I intentionally tried to cut people off, but I wanted her to have ample time as she deserved. I'm going to allow one more comment, and I'm going to vote on the question. Yes, sir.
My question was in regard to Bill Cherry. My question was regarding a comment around salary review, and that is that we're doing 3% incrementals apparently to get us up to the halfway point. I understood your comments there, but I also understood you to say that we're significantly lower than counterparts. Was there a review to determine what the percentage was that we would have to increase in order to get them to the midpoint? Is that some 15, 20, 30% instead of the 3% that we're looking at?
No, but I would say we're getting closer to being in the middle of the road based on the salary analysis we did 4 or 5 years ago and where we're at today. We're much closer to being in the middle.
So we should continue to see a potential 3%ers for some future years until we get to that, closer to that midpoint, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Well, what we can see is 3% is getting us closer to being in the middle of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just clarification here. Balance. It's okay. All right, that answers your question. Thank you. All right, is there any other questions? All right, I'm going to ask for a vote on the amendment. We're going to amend the bottom line of $1,979,649. It's an amendment to amend the bottom line, and the recommendation based for that amendment is to reduce the entire full-time, part-time town staff by a percentage that is in the $20,000 total range. Is everybody clear on that? So again, I'm going to try a voice vote. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. All those against the amendment signify by saying no. No. Okay, the amendment's defeated. Okay. I'm going to offer one more time. Again, I'm going to look at, as I mentioned, we don't have to, that amendment went down, but is there anyone else that would like to, at this time, speak on the total operating budget of $1,979,649? I'm going to recognize Selectman Bennett.
Okay, my interest is the Valley Vision. I don't want to adjust the figures at all. The $7,000 should stay there. I just want to know what folks think about paying for the TV coverage, or if Hank were to film all this and put it on e-news, if that would be satisfactory. In other words, so this is our franchise money. Keep it in-house, keep it at home. Maybe upgrade Hank's equipment a little bit and use that right
Jackson
here.
Flex, not used. It would be Jackson Flex, not used.
That's borderline getting away from second round, but just a real quick comments. I'll take them, but.
Gay Howe, the person who's speaking up front here, if she could speak, but stand and speak so we could hear her back here, would be helpful.
I was just saying it's Jackson Flicks, not E-News.
She was correct in his, it wouldn't be E-News, it would be Jackson Flick. I understand, yeah. We need to. Sarah, you were next, and then I think I have a couple over here.
Okay, Sarah Clemens, are you saying, Mr. Bennett, that you would have the visual like you do on Valley Vision on Channel 3? You would have that on a Jackson website? And you'd be able to get it through your computer or phone or the library?
You could have it at the library any time of the day or night, whenever you felt like looking at it.
I have a couple of hands. Go ahead, Jeanette, and then I got a couple more real quick. But again, this one is kind of borderline subject matter.
Just a question, to Dick, which line item are you referring to, please?
On page 19, recreation park.
Okay, I had at least two more hands and then one more here, and I'm gonna, go ahead, Betsy, and then,
Thanks, Betsy Harding. I'm not sure I understood Dick's comment. I do want to add in that I think the work that Hank Benish does with us is totally fabulous. He's there every meeting, it seems, long hours, and does a great job putting it out there on jacksonflix.com. Dick, were you saying to have Hank's work instead of Valley Vision or in addition? I'm not sure.
Just to format everything that he's filming for us to use on our own website.
And to drop Valley Vision?
Yes.
but you're not looking to reduce the money.
I'm not going to reduce the money that we're appropriating. It's just I want to or ask whether to reach out.
All right, I'm gonna, the two people that have hands up, I'm gonna take their comments, but that's gonna be a decision that you people make. We're gonna go right to the bottom. I have two hands up and I have to recognize it. Go ahead.
My name is Ginger Bailey. I'm confused. Is this the eliminating the Valley Vision? That's nothing to do with town.
He's asking an opinion of the body of the town. Do you want to change from Valley Vision and put all the efforts in Jackson Flix? But we still have that money involved. That's an advisory, but that's their decision to make. Again, it's borderline not in the subject matter at hand. So I'm going to allow this one more comment, and I'm not going to talk about this one anymore because it's not. It's an opinion poll for the select. Go ahead, and then I'm going to.
In the spirit of the opinion poll, I have never been one that felt that Valley Vision, that Jackson was well served by Valley Vision. I think Jackson is much better served by the job that Hank does, and I would support what Dick suggested in a very strong manner.
All right, I'm going to get away from that again. We have to talk about the subject matter and the bottom line. There's been no amendment offered. It was an opinion, and I've allowed some opinions, and they'll take that under consideration for going forward. Is there any other question on the bottom line of the operating budget of the town of $1,979,649? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you very much for bearing with all of us. Me included. Okay, coming to page 20. Okay. Here we go. We have a single appropriation amount, but it basically has to do with several line items. But the gist of it, I think you got the hint by now, is how we deal with this. Article 7, appropriations to capital reserve funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $248,500 to be placed in the following capital reserve funds at the amount shown. Fire department truck, $80,000. Road reconstruction, $65,000. Highway truck, $50,000. Highway heavy vehicle, $30,000. Police cruiser, $15,500. And reevaluation of town property, $8,000. For a grand total of $248,500. Again, if you want to amend that up or down, we do it off that bottom line of $248,500. Do I hear a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Okay, is there any discussion on Article 7? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay, Article 8, pretty much the same deal. Appropriations to expendable trust funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $113,000 to be placed in the following expendable trust funds. Transfer station, $50,000. State aid reconstruction, $30,000. Bridge repair, $25,000. Dry hydrants, $5,000. Police Department equipment, $3,000. Is there any discussion on any of those areas or in general? No. Yes, so moved.
Second.
Lost my place here. So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay. I think we'll buy all of those combined articles. Okay. Transfer station, Article 9, Phase 2. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $81,500 for the purpose of Phase 2 of the transfer station upgrade. The sum of $81,500 shall be withdrawn from the transfer station expendable trust fund. Article is contingent upon Bartlett also approving the upgrade. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Paul Lubniak. Just a question. What is phase 2 going to involve?
Most of it's going to be the canopy that they're going to put over the recycling area, so it'll keep that area dry, and therefore we'll get more money when we actually do start to fully recycle. That's one of the big issues for that part. And, we have balers involved in that as well. And I think the building is phase 3. That's mainly what's most of the stuff. And we do have our backload. We're also looking into purchase as well. A used one.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, Burton, I have a question, just, if it doesn't get passed in Bartlett, does that not, then those funds...
Contingent upon Bartlett, the way the article reads. It's contingent upon Bartlett also approving the upgrade. So if they don't approve the upgrade, we're not...
So it doesn't even come out of our allocation, of like, it just goes back into that trust?
Well, it's coming out of the expenditure trust fund, so it would stay in the fund.
Yeah, it just stays in that fund, okay. No, that was it.
Peter Benson, what's Bartlett's share of this contingency? Do you know that number?
Same amount.
50-50.
Even though the population's like 70-30?
Really want to go down that road?
I'm just saying, and I mean, theirs contingent upon our approval too. So it's continued shot anyway. Okay, thank you.
There is a formula that we use for purchasing, 75-25 on small items, 60-40 for intermediate, less than 10-year life expectancy, and 50-50 anything over 10 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this article? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 10, highway repair. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,792 for the purpose of highway road projects. Funds to be offset with a highway block grant. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0. Second, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, well, Burton, just, is that enough money? I know that they asked for, budget items back in, but...
Well, we have Article 7, we have road construction as well.
Yeah.
And everything else.
And is the bridge, the Jackson Falls Bridge, is that like in a whole different ballgame because of the state being involved in that?
Yeah, Article 10 is just for highway repair, general maintenance, and we developed that number based on what we already had in our operating budget and what we anticipate getting from state aid like we've got in the past and what we want to do this year, and so that's how we identified what our needs were, and that's how we determined the amount.
But that bridge is still the way it's out, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Will Resnick. So does this mean that we're only discussing
money that will be spent on highway roads. We're not discussing money that will be spent to repair or reconstruct local roads. Am I correct in saying that?
These are local roads.
What I mean is, to clarify, so this money would be spent on roads like Route 16 or Route 302. It wouldn't necessarily be spent on Carter Notch or...
Yeah, no, those roads are state roads.
It's state highway, which is Route 16, Route 16A, Route 16B.
Okay.
So you've got, you know.
Thank you.
Ken Kimball, just a question of clarification. It says the funds to be offset with highway block grant. Does that mean in the end that this is a net zero?
Soon we get all the money. Yeah, the block grant is a questionable amount every year. We never know what the state's going to give us on that, so it's like a matching type fund.
I was trying to clarify. Yes.
So the state gives us basically this money. Pat Kelly, road agent, the state gives us this money, like, pretty much, and then we spend it. We anticipate this amount of money. So we have $130,000 that we appropriate in the operating expense, and then there's a $65,000 item that you've already said yes to, and then this is a third one, and all of that money goes in and it works on just town roads. The state aid road money goes under the state and local roads. Black Mountain, Carter Notch, that the state own, that we put money towards.
Does that pretty much clarify for everybody?
Yeah.
This is the state aid reconstruction, if you will, for the state roads, no? Similar, local, for the state local. No. Okay, I'm sorry, gave the wrong answer. Is everybody clear on what he just explained? It all goes into the town of Jackson, whether it's a town road or a state road, is bottom line, and there are several areas that we've already appropriated money specifically to roads in town.
Yes, I understand.
Okay, any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 11, Jackson Falls fence installation. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the installation of a fence along portions of Jackson Falls, and authorize the withdrawal of $10,000 from the Wentworth Wildcat Fund, number 0029, created for such a purpose. The purpose of the fence is to funnel foot traffic onto designated paths, allowing regrowth in areas other than walkways. The areas to be fenced are the main parking area, steep slope from the handicap parking area towards the corner, steep slope near the Iron Bridge, and a section above a steep slope leading towards the uppermost rock staircase. These fences will discourage foot traffic in revegetation areas and reinforce in an aesthetically pleasing way where people are encouraged to walk, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0.
Seconded.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to know if these fences, excuse me.
Just state your name, yeah. We know who you are, but we have to make sure.
I want to know what these fences are going to be like.
Fence.
Chain link or split rail?
Going in the wall.
You want us to pay for it?
Any other questions about this? Any discussion?
Bob Cantig, is it meant to be a permanent fence, a temporary one for those areas to be vegetated, or what are we looking at?
Well, I think it's probably the estimate, it'll take several years to regenerate that growth, so, you know, what's permanent, it's not designed to be something that is seasonal. So I think the thinking is after a couple of 2-3 years, at least from the folks on the Conservation Commission, there may no longer be a need, but there may be a need that always exists to channel the foot traffic so that the erosion doesn't happen again.
Bill Lokish. You need to rethink the split rail thing. I mean, I have split rail on my property, and it doesn't last that long in this part of the country. I'd strongly suggest you put up a nice looking green the chain link fence.
I know, that's his opinion, and please respect his opinion.
I'll pass your comments along with the Conservation Commission.
Jeff Maynard, have you given any consideration to putting some plantings along the fence, so when the fence does what Bill thinks it's going to do, deteriorates, then the plantings would accomplish the same purpose as the fence?
The Conservation Commission has done planting regularly over the last several years, and I think one of the struggles they're getting into is that what they're planting down there isn't taking hold because they don't have a way to direct foot traffic from the road down. And the thinking is that what they do plant down there on a regular basis will have a better chance of taking hold if they can control the foot traffic. I think that's the thinking about how what they've done hasn't been as effective as they had hoped it would be over the last 2 or 3 years.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, Bill Terry. I don't know anybody from the Conservation Commission's here, but I've attended many of those meetings and also in the last 2 years have participated in the plantings that we have done on those beds and in those hills. Many of them, another purchase has been planned for this spring, and you're all welcome to come on out for the planting process that will occur. We mark them. If you go down there, you'll see them with little orange tags, possibly, as you walk around. And some of them have taken, some have not. What happens characteristically, even though we put debris around to keep people from walking over them and all kinds of things, is that folks trample them. Also, the conditions aren't perfect for every plant to survive. So the fences will assist that. And I think that the other comment I would like to make is regarding the split rail. The split rail was chosen specifically so that eventually it will die. And hopefully it won't last forever, and maybe we don't need a fence forever in that natural area. And then we'll have to decide at some later time whether or not we need another fence.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 12, Cable Franchise Agreement. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,000 for the purpose of updating the Time Warner Cable Franchise Agreement, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0.
So moved.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
And I have a question. What is this do? It's a two-part question. What does this get us?
This money would help us negotiate that agreement. It's a longer-term agreement, and it would be in our best interest as a town to really, strike a good deal.
And who benefits? Is this something that the town gets? Do the individual subscribers? I don't understand, because I've got Time Warner Cable and I pay them for something. So what does this pay for?
Right, you pay, and then the town gets a franchise fee from the Cablevision, and this is to help us negotiate what we get. And the idea that, I know a while ago, it was, they had to hit or offer cable to every residence that's on the grid. So if you were getting telephone and electricity, they have to offer you the hookup. Anyway, you can imagine a big company not wanting to spend a whole lot of money on us. You'd be accurate, they don't. So we want to negotiate the best possible franchise agreement with them.
Part two. Time Warner is now changed to Spectrum.
Right.
Do we need to change that in this warrant article? Time Warner or its successors?
They can change that wording if they are successful in being able to negotiate a better deal for everybody, basically. Any other questions on this one? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay, fire department furnace upgrade. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,570 for the purpose of purchasing a furnace for the fire department. Recommended by Board of Selectmen, $3. Here, second, please. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Is that the best one they could get?
I know you said it, but again, she's got a record of speaking, so.
Bill Terry, is that the best one they could get, is for that building? I mean, it looks like a very small number.
It's 5. Due to the design of the building being so old, it's 5 furnaces in that building. There's no other option. We're upgrading one that's in the attic. It's not very efficient. Hopefully something that's a lot more efficient. Just for the meeting room, basically.
And for the record, the selectman directed the fire chief, Henry, to answer that question. Go ahead.
Larry Garland. What kind of furnace is it in terms of fuel? Is
It's
it a propane?
gas.
Is it a
Gas, like everything else in the building. Gas.
gas, propane?
Gas.
Yes.
Propane.
Our fire chief has a little cold, so he has a little volume problem, which is very rare.
And you already have the propane, there's already a propane supply to the building?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeanette Hyman, this just says for the purchase of, who's going to install it, who's going to dispose of the old one?
That's installed.
That's installed.
Okay.
And I would assume it's based on a quote, and it's probably something to do with who you have your contract by the year with your LP suppliers. I don't know. But it
Just
has.
make sure we were covering everything.
Any other questions on this discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 14, Town Clerk Tax Collector 3% increase. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,092 for the purpose of having the Town Clerk Tax Collector receive the same across-the-board percentage increase as all other town employees. If approved, annual increase for the Town Clerk Tax Collector will be included in future operating budgets and will be the same across-the-board increase that all other town employees receive. Recommended by the Selectmen.
So moved.
Move to second. Is there any question?
Is this not redundant with us, sorry, Ken Hinkle, on page 17, town clerk tax collector wages on the far right, it says 3% increase in warrant article. Is this redundant with that?
No.
No.
That's in reference to this warrant article.
In reference to that's the breakdown, but we're only raising 3,000 once. Any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 15, fireworks. See if the town will vote to raise appropriate sum of $3,000 for the Jackson Chamber of Commerce for the purpose of contributing to the fireworks fund. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen, $3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 16, beautification project. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 for the Jackson Chamber of Commerce for the purpose of contributing to the holiday beautification project, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I'll go to this side once. Peter.
Peter Benson, what holiday? Christmas hour. Just assuming it's Christmas hour. Could be
They're just updating the decorations.
All right.
Yeah, so I think there are this amount
Just a
on.
point, they should make the article clear, well, if they're thinking about a specific holiday, not a holiday.
So we can hear the questions.
$1,000 isn't a whole lot. Where does the rest of the money come from, you know?
Chamber of Commerce.
And they get it from
It's the town's contribution to
The
the.
town's contribution towards it, and it goes
I
funds
wondered
to
if we
the
were
Chamber
paying
of Commerce.
twice,
is what he's saying.
paying twice for it.
Okay. All right, is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 17, exemption of renewable energy energy sources, petition. To see if the town of Jackson will vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 72:61 through RSA 72:72 inclusively, which provide for an optional property tax exemption for the property's assessed value for property tax purposes for persons owning real property which is equipped with solar energy systems, wind-powered energy systems, or wood heating energy systems intended for use at the immediate site. Such property tax exemption shall be in the amount equal to 100% of the assessed value of qualifying equipment under these statutes. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 1, 1, and 1. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes. Go ahead. Les in the back. You got the floor, please.
Leslie Shoemaker, this is a petition article by one neighbor who's out of town, and I know it was discussed a few times by the Conservation Commission. I thought somebody here was going to, from the commission was going to speak to that. This is something that's done in many, many towns. I have a list here of 103 municipalities in New Hampshire that do it, including Conway. And the point is, if you add solar power or wind power or something to, be more energy efficient, you aren't penalized by having your property assessment go up. And I know the discussions in the planning board, the Conservation Commission, that they should believe that it's a good thing to do. If you put in a more efficient furnace, you aren't penalized.
So she's offering a little explanation to the background. Is there any other discussions of this? I had a couple of hands up. Sarah, I guess.
Sarah, is this just for the immediate homeowners use? It's not commercial?
No,
it's
that's
just
domestic. If you
For that property in it.
If you put solar panels on your roof, you aren't penalized by having to pay more property tax.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Robert, is this a one-time type of an exemption on the initial cost of an installation, on a new installation, or is this something that people can turn around and say, I burn wood and, spent, 5 cords of wood and I'm looking for a tax exemption from the town because of that purpose?
It's not for the wood, it's for the equipment.
For the equipment, so if someone went out and bought a brand new stove, then they can take a full exemption off of the tax, and is there any place that the revenues lost from this exemption would supplement loss of tax revenues? I mean, I'm all for, renewable energy, but I'm not so much wondering how much we could lose if people spend $15,000 on solar panels off of their taxes.
The selectman will answer that.
Well, it's a good question, and I think you're getting at some of the concerns we had around the warrant article that was submitted to us. on the last day that petitioned articles could be filed, we didn't really feel like, I'm the one that abstained. I didn't really feel like I had time to understand this. I think these warrant articles typically separate out solar and wind power and wood heating, so those would really normally be 3 separate warrant articles. We don't have, as a Board of Selectmen, the authority to change petitioned articles. Whether they're valid or not is really, there's nothing we can do about it when it comes in as a petitioned article. And we had concerns around the wording of the article. We asked the Department of Revenue Administration to weigh in on the 2 articles that were submitted on the last day. And at the time that the second budget hearing came around, we didn't have their answer as far as whether the wording on this warrant article was going to be valid or not. We've had concerns expressed from town council about some of the wording around this. If we approve this warrant article, it may pass muster with the Department of Revenue Administration, and it may not. It also doesn't contain a dollar amount, which is what you would normally see in a warrant article. Some towns have voted in favor of warrant articles like this, and some have not. But we just felt like a warrant article that came to us actually between the first and second budget hearing, that we didn't have time to really get the information we needed to make an informed decision is why you see the vote across the board. I don't know if our town council has anything more he wants to add to that or not.
Just that the Department of Revenue Administration each year puts out a booklet of proposed suggested warrant articles for towns. They recommend how certain warrant articles be written. For example, your next one is the Veterans Tax Credit, and they have a recommendation in their booklet of how that warrant article should be written. For this particular one, the renewable energy sources, DRA's recommendation is that it be broken down into 3 separate articles. One just dealing with solar exemption, one seeking to adopt the wind-powered exemption, and a third one seeking to adopt a wood heating exemption. And in that article, you have a choice of creating a property tax exemption in a certain dollar amount or a percentage of the assessed value of qualifying solar, wind, or wood heating systems. So I think it's a little bit confusing in that the petitioners have consolidated what was, I think, intended to be 3 separate warrant articles into one. They've also they also seek to exempt 100% of the assessed value of the qualifying equipment under these statutes. Just wanted to point out that that's not statutory, that's a number, a percentage that they chose to put in. DRA has apparently looked at it and said, you know, we probably would have written it differently. We definitely would have written it differently because we recommended that it be written differently, but the way it's written is, you know, certainly not illegal. I think the town's tax assessor has looked at it and said it would be, you know, somewhat difficult for him to deal with, but he could probably do it. That's an accurate summary of what Jason said.
Jerry was next, and I know there's several people who want to speak, so.
From a layman's reading on RSAs, and to answer the question here, it has nothing to do with the cost of the equipment. In other words, if someone who has a pellet stove or a solar collector or a turbine isn't going to be reimbursed for the cost of that. It's only the increase in taxes that they would incur by putting in that equipment. So in other words, if you put in a wind turbine and your taxes go up $500 because of the wind turbine, nothing to do with the cost of the turbine itself, and this would allay that increase to your taxes. It has nothing to do with reimbursing you for the cost of the equipment or the installation of it.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll start over. I'll try to get, I know we got 4 people at least. Go ahead.
Peter Benson. While I think the intent of this article is good, the wording is poor. It's vague and hard to enforce. I mean, I think a lot of people in this town have been heating with a wood heating energy system for a long time, and we would love some clarification on what that really means. It doesn't also include some other alternative energy sources. We have a geothermal system. I think it needs to go back, get some clarity in the wording, and get some dollars behind it or some percentages for it to be effective.
I'm gonna move right around, go ahead.
Anyhow, yeah, I agree with that. I'd also want to know, from the town's perspective, what does assessed value really mean in terms of the tax base of the town? If we're, you know, this is a question for the future, but if we're looking at adjusting the tax base for installations like this, what does that really mean to the town in terms of a number, so we can address the warrant as it's probably intended to be?
Currently, we have roughly, according to our tax assessor, around $215,000 worth of solar value that has been added to homes as a result of adding solar heating to their home. So it's not about, again, the equipment value, but if there's a formula involved. If my house is 100% solar, my value will go up. That value won't be able to be taxed. And so roughly $215,000 of value has been added to homes that have added solar panels. Like Kevin's here, he's really busy looking at solar projects. It's a very popular thing to do right now. The total assessed value of the town is $390 million. So whether that's a drop in the bucket or whatever, however you look at it is your business. But that's roughly the amount we're talking about.
Okay, there was several hands up. Go ahead, I think there was someone right over here. Either Leslie or whoever, and then I know.
As for the wording, I was told that they copied Conway's the wording and when they adopted it, I don't know when they did, but so far 103 towns have done this. And it's just so people are, you know, the hope is that people are encouraged to seek out alternative energy sources, not penalized.
I know there was some hands over here in the center, and I know Scott wants to talk. I saw them first. I just want to give everybody an equal chance. Go ahead, Mr. Badger.
Scott Badger, I just clarify, this is for both current and future installations, or is it only for future installations?
Well, the value that's been added from past installations has been added to the property, so this would just be going forward.
So you wouldn't be carving that value out of properties that currently receive solar?
You're not going to lose any assessed value of what's already been done, but you're not going to add if this should come up on a property going forward.
And is there a rationale for not applying to current?
We're not backtracking, you mean, and
No,
adjusting down for projects that have already been done, is that your
Right,
question?
I mean, why I put wind in last year, would I not get the same value that someone puts wind in next year?
Well, this is the warrant article that came to us. I don't even know, we haven't even bothered to look into it. I don't know that we could backtrack and carve out value for homes that have added solar in the past.
And isn't it just a feature of the home that has some sort of value?
Well, if we don't have a warrant on the books as of 2 years ago, I wouldn't know how to address that. Peter, have you got an opinion you want to add to that?
Not right now.
Okay. He may weigh in a second. He's no more. I know there was another hand here, and I know. Thank you. Go ahead.
Bill Terry, you said you do have a handle on this. You have actually $215,000 of assessed value that has occurred as a result, if I heard you correctly. And if that is the case, then that's the amount that has been accumulated to date that has been assessed. I think what I understand this warrant article to say is that the town would not prospectively assess anyone for any new activities, but it also sounds as if someone could request an exemption among those that have $215,000 of added value already assessed, which you've already included in your tax revenues, that they could come back and say, look, I put a solar panel, you assessed it at $50,000, And now I'm looking to have a 50,000 less assessment. If I'm understanding.
Well, you're making a valid point on why it's very difficult for us to really get a good handle on warrant articles that come in on the last day. If you ask the Department of Revenue Administration for an opinion on that very last day, you're not going to get them to answer the phone. It's a cyclical administration down there, and we felt fortunate to get just some kind of initial response from them around the wording at this time of year. You like to have these things in the fall so you can be, prepared and they have the time to be thoughtful about it.
Before I go any further, I'm going to defer to
I mean, I don't have all the answers on this, but there's a statute, 72:33, application for exemption of tax credit. So somebody that wants to receive one of these credits or the following one for the veterans or any other tax credit permitted by New Hampshire law has to apply for it. The statute does say that no such application shall be received or exemption or credit granted after the local tax rate has been approved for that year. So you apply for the exemption, and I suppose the assessor will have to determine whether or not you qualify.
Is there anybody that hasn't spoken would like to speak to this? Jerry?
With respect to backtracking on assessment, our homes are reassessed in a cycle. Whether it's 3 years or 5 years, everyone's home gets reassessed. And you have a certain period of time after the reassessment to appeal that assessment. And as Peter says, after your home is assessed, you may have put in the wind turbine 7 years ago, but in some period in the next 5 years, your home's going to be reassessed. The turbine assessment will either be in there or not. You can make an application to be exempt from the increase in taxes that the turbine has. They're not going to give you money back from the previous years, but your assessment going forward will be different.
All right, I'm going to take one more comment. All right. And I believe we're all in agreement up here. It is a confusing issue. However, a petitioned article is a petitioned article. There are things that you can do and say about those, but you've got to put it on the warrant, which is what they did. So, with that said, everybody, this is just a straight yes or no vote, unless you want to do something different. But all those in favor of Article 17 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I think I'm gonna go ahead real quick, because it was kind of a lot of comments. Real quick, to my left. Yes votes, hands up, please. Okay. To my right, hands up, yes. All right. All those to my left, noes. To my right, noes. The article's defeated. I think that's going to need a lot of research. I think it's probably got some great merit, but I think it's obvious that these guys need a lot more opinion and research on that to weigh correctly.
Just a quick point. Scott mentions turbines. Betsy and I frankly are planning on putting solar panels on our roof in May. I would hope that when the next warrant comes up, that it will be quite specific as to when this will. But
Again, I believe the selectmen are going to weigh in on that. Hopefully the people will do some research next week. Anyway, we're moving on. Okay. Article 20. 18. Yeah. we haven't gone too far yet. Article 18. I got it. I just had to read. Thank you. Article 18. All veterans tax credit petition. Shall the town adopt the provision of RSA 72:28-B, the all veterans tax credit, as provided below, 72:28-B, all veterans tax credit. Number 1, all town or city may adopt or rescind the all veterans property tax credit granted under this section by the procedure in RSA 72:27A. 2, the credit granted under this section shall be the same as the amount of the standard or optional veterans tax credit in effect in the town or city under RSA 72:28. Number 3, the all veterans tax credit shall be subtracted each year from the property tax on the veteran's residential property. 4, a person shall qualify for the all veterans tax credit if the person is a resident of the state who served not less than 90 days on active service in the armed forces of the United States and was honorably discharged, or an officer honorably separated from service, or the spouse of a surviving spouse of such resident, provided that the Title X training for active duty by a member of a National Guard or Reserve shall be included as service under this paragraph. Provided, however, that the person is not eligible for and is not receiving a credit under RSA 72:28 or RSA 72:35. Source 2016 217:1, effective August 8, 2016. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 102.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to address it.
Just one of the speakers, George, so she gets you right.
That what the proposed amendment in the following son, it says this is a peacetime. Well, if you look at the military, they've not been in a peacetime operation for some time. We have a strong military force. We have more commitment. They're gone on deployments after deployments. It only.
I think there was at least one more hand somewhere.
And can you explain why the selectmen voted 102?
I'm a veteran, I voted for it.
I abstained because I didn't know the dollar value was attached to it, what kind of monies were involved.
And I was the other abstain vote on that for the similar reasons I talked, love wind power, love solar, love vets. I just, on the last day when we had questions about it, the difference in the article is George did a nice succinct job talking about it. We currently have a $500 veterans credit for any veteran that has served in a time of conflict. And those are date-specific times that are determined by the federal government. And so this will allow any veteran to end up getting that credit, $500, that didn't serve in a time of conflict, that served at least 90 days in a non-conflict time. I didn't know what those dates were. I had no feedback from the Department of Revenue Administration, and I just think that anytime there's a warrant article that comes before this town, with me as a selectman, I want to be able to know how it's going to impact taxpayers, and I didn't have enough time to get the answers that I wanted in order to make an informed decision. So I stayed for basically the same reason.
The thing that I would address to the chairman is that if there's insufficient time to do the research from the last day that you can submit it, I suggest we ought to move that time up to provide adequate time.
Yep, okay, well taken. Unfortunately, a lot of that's governed by legal time dates. Any other discussion on this? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted.
Thank you very much. Well received. Thank you.
Article 19, thank you for your explanation, because that was a confusing one. Article 19, Children Unlimited, petition. See if the town will vote to raise appropriate sum of $3,000 for the Family Resource Center at Children Unlimited, Inc., submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay, 20. Tri-County Community Action Petition. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 for the Tri-County Community Action for the purpose of continuing services of the Fuel Assistance Program for the residents of Jackson. Submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0.
Second. So moved.
Moved and seconded. I know, tongue-tied. All those, any discussion, excuse me? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. 21, the Gibson Center petition. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 to support Jackson Home Delivered Meals, Meals on Wheels, congregate meals, transportation, and program services provided by the Gibson Center for Senior Services, Inc., submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this?
Why did we only approve $2,500 when we approved $3,000 for the others?
Well, I believe it's petitioned and they asked for that specific amount, so that's what they put in. I think there is a formula, but it's, that they have to put in what was submitted. Is there any other questions?
Bill Watson, but we could raise that amount here tonight.
You
right?
you can amend a petition article.
We did a couple of years ago for those.
You can. You have the authority to amend a petition article. Are there any other questions? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 22, White Mountain Community Health Center, and again petition. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,252 for the support of White Mountain Community Health Center to help meet the health care needs of the uninsured and underinsured residents of the town. Submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0.
So moved. Second.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 23, Conway Area Humane Society petition. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,000 for the Conway Area Humane Society in Conway, New Hampshire, for the purposes of continuing services for stray, abandoned, or animals brought to the shelter. Submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 24, starting point petition. To respectfully request that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $834 in support of the starting point, providing advocacy and support of victims of domestic and sexual violence and their children. Submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, 3-0.
So moved.
Second. Is there a second? Do I hear any discussion? And I believe, yes, Kathy.
Yes.
Okay.
That article should have read, for the amount that they asked
Yeah,
for was
sure.
$987. It was correctly written in the town warrant. That's what they're asking for, $987.
So as I previously, are you asking for an amendment to this petition to change the amount to
$987.
$987?
It was a mistake in the town
And
warrant.
that was, I was advised of this earlier, so this isn't a surprise, but it was the only way we could do it. So it was an incorrectly printed amount. So I have a motion made and seconded. Now I have an amendment to the article.
Second amendment.
The amendment is seconded. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Again, you vote on the amendment. If the amendment is defeated, we go back to the amount as proposed. That's the legal way we have to do this. Is Is there any discussion on the amendment? If not, to amend the article to the amount of $987. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment passes. So Article 24, as amended, and I believe this is just formality at this stage, but is there any questions? If not, all those in favor of raising the amended amount, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. Article 25, Northern Human Services petition. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $716 for Northern Human Services to assist the mental health center. Submitted by petition, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 3-0.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we're getting close. Article 26, to act upon any other business which may legally come before this meeting. And before you do that, this is only a discussion article. You can't raise, amend, add, subtract, no money article, only discussion. Yes, Sarah.
I would like to know if the selectman, Mr. Bennett, would like a show of hands on the talk about the video for keeping it in town to help with their decision.
This is an appropriate time to do that. It would be a non-binding, she's asking a show of hands to give the selectmen guidance in the Valley Vision versus Jackson Flicks discussion. For all of those that would like to see that go in the direction, I think is what you're asking, of
Jackson Flicks.
the Jackson Flicks. Is everybody just, it's just an advisory. All those, please show you, raise your hands. Okay. All those against and want to leave it as Channel 3? I think you guys are answering. Thank you. Are there any other things that may come up at this point before I?
Is it appropriate for me at this time to say that I'm concerned about the fact that in this town there's not much housing available for people, younger families and so on? And then, is it a good time for me to say this? Okay, I'll try to be quick.
Any other business?
Then, I'm concerned about the fact, as a planning board member, one who was participating in our master plan this year, indicating that we really need to find a way to advocate and attract younger families in our workforce housing. I would like to see us be able to establish a committee that could brainstorm for innovative ideas to be able to make it happen. We already have some zoning that allows for workforce housing opportunities, and yet it's not being taken on by any developers and so on. So if there are some people here that would enjoy participating in a committee to brainstorm how to make it work, please see me afterwards. I'd love a chance to talk about it. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to add to that? It's Peter?
Peter Benson, two things really quickly. Just, most of you already know, but one of our own in Jackson family lost their home 2 nights ago. Mike Chapman, who was not only a police officer, but was also a member of the Jackson Fire Department, and his family lost their home. They're doing a GoFundMe on their page, so if you would consider a donation, that would be great. And secondly, I just want to commend, I assume it's town staff for this report. It was spiral bound, especially for those of us who are left-handed. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Is there any other issue? And again, there's no subject matter here. We're not raising any money, so this is your time to say things that we don't have to worry about varying from the subject matter at hand.
I just wanted to recognize the road crew, throughout the winter and being up all night plowing our roads. That's awesome.
Repeat what you just said.
I just want to say, following that kind of, I've really enjoyed having done the road in this winter as long as it was. continue that in the future, that would be great.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead.
Tish Hammond. I just want to thank the selectmen and all the people who work in the town. I think we have a wonderful town, and I'm grateful for all your time and service. I'm also grateful for everyone who spoke, all the watchdogs, Sarah, and her input. I just think it's important that we all work together and all speak our mind and keep an eye on things, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comment? One more comment? I just want to say again, I know that not going backwards, but the operating budget was very contentious in a lot of ways. My humble apologies. My point being, we all need to help somehow, some way. If you look at Town of Bartlett's warrant, look at their bottom line, look at what is broken down by articles. There's a lot of these articles they would all be in that bottom line. I think our selectmen very much try to put everything separate for you to discuss that's allowed by Department of Revenue Administration. So it's a very tough job. But obviously, we all, myself included, if we can make that work a little smoother so that next year we try to do more things, we try to participate, and we try again to discuss those things. And my apologies, Sarah, I truly apologize if I did. The point being, the time to discuss is when you give the opportunity and take a lot of time on the clock for you to discuss those line items and the appropriate things that are related to the line items, so that when we get to the bottom line, because that's the only place we can really change anything, we're prepared. But again, thank you for bearing with that whole thing, and my apologies, and thank you all for a great meeting. And with that, unless you're going to say what I'm asking you to, I would ask for a motion to go. This meeting is resolved.